You know when you come across something so amazing, so incredible, that you don't even know what to say about it? Like, no words you can ever put on the paper or speak will be enough to do the product justice. For me, as Space for the Unbound is one of those games. I know I won't manage to fully convey why I related to this experience so much, but if my ramblings here are enough to get even one of you to try this out, then it will have been worth it. And on that note, I will start with my strongest argument in favor of the game, and quite possibly the only one most of you will need. You can pet and name like 20 cats. Here, just take a look at this. You can also pet a duck and a couple of other animals. I know, you're already sold and probably buying the game right now, but, you know, since I like to talk, I'll just continue my review anyway. A Space for the Unbound is a mostly 2D slice-of-life adventure game. You play as Atma, a high school senior in the late 90s rural Indonesia. As such, you get to walk around and interact with many elements from both that time period and that location, which was an incredible experience. From jokes such as a computer getting disconnected in an internet cafe because the owner got a phone call to cultural references like Keddon Kong music, the game absolutely nails its setting. Exploring the town is a joy, and it's all thanks to the extreme care put into even the smallest of details. But while there are daily life elements that lend the game within the slice of life category, don't be mistaken, the story is anything but mundane. The store page says that the game, quote, tells a story about overcoming anxiety, depression, and about the relationship between a boy and a girl with supernatural powers, end quote. This is very accurate in many ways. Atma and his girlfriend, Raya, are at the center of the story. Most things revolve around them and the powers they have, which are many. The store page even lists one of them, the power to dive into people's minds. And just like in games like Psychonauts, this is a concept that is explored extremely well in the game, with the player constantly diving into minds to advance the plot and help the characters as needed. The story itself is a bit of a slow burn for sure, but despite that, it kept me hooked throughout, employing both dramatic bits regarding the supernatural elements and threats, as well as deeply personal ones, such as the aforementioned anxiety, depression, and overall uncertainty of life. The story started off good, and I'm pleased to say it only got better and better. It's rare for something to get me this emotionally invested to the point of just feeling empty by the end, but A Space for the Unbound absolutely did it. I think part of the reason why is because I just connected and really related to the struggles that the characters faced. After I beat the game, I just had to sit and ponder for a while and deal with the fact that this awesome experience was over. And the Steam reviews echo the sentiment, with plenty of folks saying that they were very emotional or crying. The story does make use of some storytelling cliches, and it won't land for everyone, as you might not be a fan of those or, you know, anything. But I'm of the belief that as long as cliches are used correctly, and do not feel like a cheap way out of a situation, then it's totally fine. It's hard, after all, to be entirely original. And before you ask, yes, this game did use them well. But of course, a good story and setting is nothing without its supporting elements, right? I'm very pleased to say that the writing is really good, with some well thought out jokes and believable dialogues. As for the gameplay that moves all this forward, it's quite standard, but it works very well. You move Atma in his mostly 2D plane, and you interact with people and objects. When you do, you bring up a context menu to choose your actions, such as talk, interact, or use an item on them. There are lots of interactable things throughout the game, and quite a few are just for world building, which I appreciate. You can also find shiny objects on the ground that work as collectibles for the game. Speaking of collectibles, there are three main types of them. The first one is bottle caps, of which there are 20. The second are Yeoman lettuce, a bubblegum brand running a promotion, which is again a wonderfully 90s thing. You get lettuce from the wrappers, and if you get them all, you gain a bike. Last but not least, you have tales, which are pages from a fairy tale that is deeply interconnected with the story. You mostly get these from story events and from completing your bucket list. What? I never mentioned the bucket list? Well, my bad. See, in Chapter 1, the game will give you a bucket list for you to do throughout the game with your girlfriend, Raya. Some of these items are story related and get automatically completed, but some are optional. There's also a motivation for completing all this past just achievements and trophies, which is that if you can finish everything, you will allegedly get an extra scene in the epilogue. Alternatively, you can just wait until it pops up on YouTube, I guess. And while not formally a collectible, there are 25 animals that you must pet throughout the game if you want to complete all bucket list items. The horror, I know, petting animals. All these collectibles and more can be seen in the game's excellent menu, which takes the form of a red book. In there, you can also find a map of the city in your inventory. It's very nifty. That being said, if you feel that the gameplay seems rather bland so far, fret not. I have yet to get to the end of my explanation. Every once in a while, the game will throw you a minigame to do. You'll find yourself doing terrible things like eating popcorn with your girlfriend, beating people up in self-defense in and out of arcade games. Okay, that one might be a bit terrible. And even taking part in court trials. Maybe my definition of not terrible might need to change, but still, they're fun. Some of the minigames, especially the fights, can be tricky at times, but it's mostly very easy. Plus, if you fail, you just automatically go back to right before you enter the minigame, so no worries there. Throughout the game, you'll also be solving puzzles to advance the story. Some of these do boil down to just walking somewhere, grabbing an item, then coming back with the correct item, but some are quite imaginative and fun. None of them are hard either, so don't worry about that. However, do expect quite a bit of running around or backtracking for items. Normally, I would mind backtracking and running through the town multiple times, but not here. Why? Partly because of the fact that the map is small, but mostly because of the absolutely stellar quality of the visuals, animations, and especially the soundtrack. I'm sure you've been noticing so far, but the game is an absolute joy to watch. This is legitimately one of the best looking games I've had the pleasure to play recently, which is saying something. And look at the scene! Look at the idle animations! The way the game uses both the foreground and the background with the grass swaying along the wind, I could honestly gush about this for this entire review. But I won't. But I could. But honestly, the real winner here is the soundtrack. Just listen to this. At times it's very calming, at times it's upbeat, at times it urges you to continue with your objective as fast as possible, and at times it's just silent. However the background music presents itself, you can be certain of one thing: it will always fit the mood the game is trying to go for. And in fact, the game's attention to detail extends even to where the soundtrack is employed. For example, notice how as soon as I enter the library, a place in which we're supposed to be silent, the soundtrack stops. So good. And the best thing I can tell you is that my issues with the game are mostly, honestly, just nitpicks. Some of them, like the at times very simple puzzles, I already mentioned, but I'd also like to mention the stealth sections. The game does have those occasionally, and they are all very simple, but also a bit annoying for me. You basically have to stop moving while behind something when the exclamation mark shows up telling you the enemy's about to turn around. The problem for me is that, compared to the rest of the game, these sections are quite slow, and get you back to the start if you mess up. It's a tiny time loss, which is why I call it a nitpick, but still, I wish the system was a bit different. Also, I found around 7 or so typos and grammar mistakes while playing, which again is absolutely no big deal whatsoever, or even a deal to me, but might matter to one or two of you, I don't know. If you're interested in the title, you should know that the story is divided into a prologue and 5 chapters, clocking in at around 10 to 12 hours. You should also know that the game has a demo on Steam, so I highly recommend checking that out before you make any decisions about your purchase. Again, I cannot state this enough. This game was an incredible experience, and unless 2023 is absolutely phenomenal, I can safely say that I already found one of my top 10 games of the year. I really did like it that much. If you do pick it up, I can only say that I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, let me know your thoughts. Now for the fun YouTube stuff. If you liked this video, if it was useful to you, please do leave a like and subscribe, as both actions really help out the channel. But above all else, leave a comment. I love hearing from you all. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you hopefully on the next video. Bye bye!